We'll see how long this stream lasts today, but I definitely wanted to do a recap on what's been happening on Twitter, and I've did a couple videos or in posts talking about it recently, and we also need to talk about the aid packages that Biden keeps sending to Ukraine. Obviously, Congress has to approve these, uh, but there's just so much going on right now that it's hard to keep up. And like I've tried to tell people before, like I'm only one person and I have very limited resources. Time is my biggest resource. And while I have hours and hours and hours every day of free time while I'm working, I have a passive job. Um, it's hard to just cover a whole bunch of topics all at once. So just understand that. But if you missed yesterday's video and haven't heard about this, we're going to talk about the Twitter algorithm changes. All of a sudden, mysteriously, it appears Twitter has removed some kind of soft censorship or block against conservatives. And it's very obvious and very noticeable. Not just conservatives, too. Let's be very clear about this. People who were against the Twitter narrative, the far left narrative, because they are far left. And it's really interesting to see this because people continuously come to me, people I know, friends and family, and they don't like the way I could tell they're uncomfortable the way I call out the far left. And this is like absolutely important. This is critical to understand this information. If you're not paying attention, it's going to sound shocking to you. And it's hard for me to explain to people because I've made this analogy before that most people are in like elementary school level of political understanding. That's how they understand things, and the conversations we have here are postdoctorate level. Like we're talking like scholar level things that are not even in question to us anymore. Things that we have been tracking for a decade plus. So it's hard to translate that down, dumb it down for people who don't understand, like give them a quick summary. Because, again, this is a decade plus of knowledge that we have acquired over time. But people started noticing, well, this is strange. How come all these conservative accounts on Twitter just started getting tens of thousands of followers, some of them hundreds of thousands of followers? And then how come all of these left-wing Twitter profiles are losing tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, in some cases, of people, of followers? It's very strange. There are some guesses, educated guesses. Some are conspiracy theories. Some are just theories. One of the theories is it is possible that Twitter has a system, a passive system, to where they would be artificially boosting the follower count of some left-wing activists. Whether it's just actual accounts, like bot accounts, or they're just fluffing the numbers. That's very possible. That they have some way to fluff the numbers on the back end. So many people now. I'm just seeing dozens and dozens of people talking about their profiles got reactivated. Their permanent bans have been reversed. Their suspensions reversed. And they're primarily conservative personalities on Twitter. And it's just getting really weird. It's very obvious that something is happening. It's not just some kind of coincidence that this is happening as Elon Musk has taken over, has purchased Twitter. Make no mistake about it, Elon Musk does not have control over Twitter yet. So the theory is that Twitter is panicking. They're going like scorched earth, in the sense of, well, at the very least they're panicking because they know that the illegal activities they've been doing over the last decade are about to be found out, because Elon Musk is not a friend to the agenda that they have been peddling and pushing. Hold on one second. Also noticing YouTube is one of those things too, like it doesn't give you the correct metrics, and they keep messing with their metrics as well. So I'm gonna share this link out because I'm seeing like likes, but no one is watching, so that's a little sus. Let me share this out on Minds. That's the best I can do because my Twitter has been nuked. Obviously, if you didn't know that. And Minds is the only place I'm verified. Actually, I think I'm verified on Gab too. I don't know. I don't remember. I don't really use Gab. Anyway. So we were looking at all this stuff. It's really interesting, okay? It's really interesting. And again, the theory is that Twitter is trying to remove or deactivate and delete and remove the algorithms that they use to suppress conservative voices or dissident voices. And I think it's really interesting because what people have been suggesting for years now is that the 2020 election was manipulated in the sense of social media. Social media manipulated it. That's as far as votes, actual votes and stuff. That's been covered, and you just get banned. So we can't talk about that here on YouTube. I can't talk about it. I'll just get banned again, and there's no point. We'll just end the conversation. But as far as information goes, the where you get your news from, your news and information from, it starts on Twitter. And I've tried to argue this several times before. Twitter is a political nuclear weapon. I've been saying that now for over a week. I'm noticing other people are starting to pick it up. It's so weird how that happens too, because you're like, well, I seriously doubt these other political actors are watching a tiny little channel like mine, but they're not calling it a nuclear weapon, but they're saying Twitter is a weapon, and it's like, yeah. Okay. So it's one of those phenomena where you're having multiple people in multiple different places saying the same thing just spontaneously, because we're on the same wavelength. So it's definitely a political super weapon. Twitter is a political nuclear weapon, and the left knows this. That's why they're freaking out. That's why Twitter appears to be scrambling behind the scenes to clean up and cover up all the evidence. I guarantee you they're trying to reverse all this stuff. Oh, we don't censor based on politics. Oh no, that's not what's happening. Like, it's been exposed so many times. But what I keep trying to explain to people is, if you knew not even half, probably 25% of the corruption that's been going on in American politics, in the establishment, in the these circles, right? The tech monopolies and politics, even in the news media. If you knew just a quarter of what they've been doing that's been illegal, I guarantee you there would be a massive revolution. And because now everything is like globalist, because everything is globalist and globally connected, and you have these conglomerates and coalitions and factions and cabals all conspiring together, what ends up happening is now the problems that we've been seeing in America develop over decades is now spreading out around the world. It's probably been there the exact same time, the whole time. It's just, I can only focus on American stuff for the most part, and I get a sprinkling of international information. Again, I'm only one person. Excuse me. So, listen. People are absolutely really weird and possessive of things they like. And I think this is also very important to understand. Well, I'm not on Facebook anymore. Oh, I'm not on Twitter anymore. No, 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 no. And they just like completely disregard. They don't want to hear anything you're saying about it. And it's like, that's really strange. That's really strange. And yesterday I was also talking about this guy on Twitter he's trying to like shame me, like, oh, you take Twitter too seriously and all this, that, and the third, and you need to go get a life and all this stuff. And I'm trying to explain that Twitter is a political battleground. And whoever controls Twitter holds a political nuclear weapon. So to pretend like it's not, though, that's what really is interesting to me. Oh, I don't like Twitter. Oh, I'm not on Twitter. It's like, okay, well, then you're not interested in the political conversation, because that's where it's happening. That's where it's happening. That's where you see and hear the first inklings of an idea being championed by those in control, which is 80-90% the left. Democrats, leftists, far leftists, communist, socialists. Reddit is a close second. Reddit is almost entirely dominated. It's another version of Twitter in a way. A multimedia website, a social media website, almost entirely dominated by the left, and all the right-wing circles have been all but deleted, removed, and quarantined, as they call it. And these things are absolutely critical to understand how they're doing what they're doing. They tell on themselves constantly. They're constantly telling on themselves. And if they're not outright admitting to something or organizing these things, they tell you without telling you. They say it without saying it, by being the biggest purveyors of projection. The things they accuse you of doing are the things they are actually doing or advocating for. All the time. All the time. It's not even close to say like, oh, some of the time or most of the time. It's like all of the time. And I don't like speaking in absolutes, but it's been getting so blatantly obvious and so bad at this point that Andrew, why don't you ever talk about Republicans? And say what? What are Republicans doing? They're not doing anything. They are literally doing nothing. It's Democrats and the left who are doing everything. What do you want me to say? Oh, Ron DeSantis pushed back against the insane far left stuff that's been happening in Florida. Okay, great. Good for him. You know, I dabble and talk about that stuff. But they're talking about criticism. You know, why don't you criticize the right? Like, what do you want me to criticize them on? There's nothing happening. If anything, I would criticize the right and say, why aren't you standing up and pushing back against this extremist rhetoric from the left and the extremist policies of the left? Because I remember in the you know, from what little I could remember in the 90s as a child, elementary school, and then late 90s in middle school, early 2000s in high school, okay, things were a lot more balanced then. And then the internet took off, and then social media spawned, you know, 2008, 2009, 2010. You know, that's when you got the Facebook, YouTube, the Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I think Reddit was around about that time too. You know, when all the big ones started, that's when things really started to change. Some of it was great at first, in my opinion. I think in the beginning of social media, things were great. We had way more access to information that we never had before in our life. We got to see perspectives from everyone, including the crazy far leftists, far right as well. I have to do a side tangent, okay? Because I know this is a live stream, so we're going off on tangents. There are factions of the right wing now, Gen Z. I don't even think they're Gen Alpha yet. I think they're Gen Z, who are monarchists in America. They think we should abolish the Constitution and give up the republic and create a monarchy. And they're growing. I mean, their faction is growing and they're gaining more steam. A lot of people are thinking about, well, maybe if we had like a Donald Trump as our king, like literally Donald Trump as king. It started as a meme, right? The God Emperor Trump. But people started thinking about it and like, that'd actually be pretty cool. And the only reason this far right authoritarian monarchist new faction Gen Z is even possible that people are even entertaining that idea is because it's a direct response to the far left and the extremist Democrat policies we've seen over the last few years. Well, 5 to 10 years, and it's getting exponentially worse. So to tie it back in to the Twitter space, why is it a PsyOp? Well, it's not just that. You also have to understand that Twitter is not simply a public or I'm sorry, a private platform. Twitter absolutely is much more than that. I'll be right back. I do apologize about that. That was the owner of the site, and we were just chit-chatting and catching up on our own dramas. So, let's get into this chat real quick, and then I'll try to remember what I was just talking about. Lance Corporal Veteran says, good morning. Remember, radicals will always radicalize their opponent sometimes. That is the goal, to justify their actions. Yes. What was I saying? Twitter isn't just a private platform, right? Twitter is also, it is heavily controlled behind the scenes by government, just like we revealed, or Jen Psaki revealed during her famous press conference, that they were flagging posts on COVID-19, things that they didn't like, they considered to be misinformation or disinformation. They were flagging them on Facebook. Okay, and she admitted to this just openly, like it was nothing. Like it's a normal policy we're doing. And you have to understand this, right? This idea of, oh, it's my company and I can do what I want with it within the confines of the law, does not really exist anymore. It just doesn't. Oh, the government can't tell me what to do. It's like, yeah, but when you get to a certain height and like how big your company is, right? How much money you're getting, how much revenue you have, you get to a certain level to where, you know, government starts giving you subsidies. Oh, you've developed a certain technology or something. Oh, let's subsidize you. Hey, we're gonna get government contracts to do this thing, like Google. Why do you think these companies got so big? Facebook, even, I believe, was partially funded by American government. I don't think Twitter was necessarily, but it's something to keep in your back pocket for a possibility. But these things keep happening, and it's only going in one direction, right? It's only going in one direction. And you have these establishment government type of personalities, the unelected class, the dupe state, as some people call it. And they're all like Democrat leaning. They are all basically Democrats. And there's Republicans in there too. Let's be fair about that. But these people control way more than you think they control. And it's easy for them to do it because no one is stopping them. And you could say, well, what am I going to do? I'm just Lance Corporal Veteran, or I'm just, whoever is listening right now. What can I possibly do? And there's always solutions to that. A lot of this has to do with organizing. A lot of this has to do with taking a personal stand. A lot of this has to do with making sacrifices that we haven't had to entertain in any meaningful way since the 1800s, okay? 1700s, the whole 1776 idea. And I understand that people get really uncomfortable and they're like, oh, he's talking about that stuff again, like that's radical, that's extreme. And it's like, is it though? Is that extreme? That our country was founded under that? That we were living under tyranny and we had to do something about it? It was that bad? Well, you're advocating for violence. That's not free speech. It's like, am I though? Like, am I because on Facebook now they've reversed a policy. Remember, like, you can't advocate for violence. You can't call for genocide or harm of protected classes, whether it be, gender, sex, nationality, all that stuff. Nationality is the one they changed. Well, you can't advocate for violence unless you're a Russian, or unless you're talking about Russians. You can, it's wartime, so you can advocate for the death of Russians, Russian troops, Russian politicians, Russian anything, Russian civilians even. You could advocate the genocide of Russians on Facebook. And that's okay now. And this is where things get really weird, because this isn't free speech. This isn't a free speech issue to me. This is well beyond all of this. This is getting into spirituality and basic fundamental principles, ethics, morals. All of this stuff is important. All of this stuff is important. And Scribble Veteran says government contracts always have strings attached. Absolutely. Eventually, corporations become puppets. Yep. That's Corporal Veteran also says, in a lot of ways, you're seeing the parity of power growing between corporations and government. Makes me wonder who's really in charge and who will be in charge eventually. And that's one of the biggest challenges. How do we figure out who's really in charge? And if it's just, I don't think it's one faction. There's multiple factions vying for power behind the scenes, and it's been like this for thousands of years. It's Game of Thrones. And when you watch TV shows like Game of Thrones or any of these like big political dramas, right? Who are the characters in that show or in those shows? I don't mean like specifically, like you don't name me Game of Thrones characters, but who are the people that are the main characters in those shows? The ruling elite. They are members of royalty. They are the political class. They are the super wealthy. They are military leaders. There's a couple side characters here and there that are just regular people, poor people, whatever. But the only reason that they are valid in the story is because of their connection to the wealthy elite characters. Every time. Every time. It doesn't make the story bad. I'm just pointing this stuff out. So in a real world Game of Thrones situation, they don't care about us. We're not main characters to them. We're not of any importance to us or to them. To them, we're just cattle. We're pawns. So keep that in mind. Now, let's see, what else can we talk about with the Twitter thing before that's burned out here? I'm just really trying to make sure I covered everything. This stuff is important. Oh, just a quick recap, I guess. Elon Musk probably won't have full control of Twitter until October. I think that's the deadline for the full agreement to be like it has to be signed and agreed on by both parties. They're basically negotiating still. So it's like, yeah, the Twitter agreed for Elon Musk to take over, but they're still negotiating details, which is irritating because we have to deal with legal and corporate red tape at this point. So that means October he will fully take over, and then a month, 2 months, December, before he really can enact any real changes. Because before he can change anything, he needs to... That was a weird gust of wind. Before he can enact anything, he has to go in and investigate and see what the problem is. Like, he can go in and literally snap his finger and be like, this is what I'm ordering. This is, it's his property. He can just do it. He still needs to investigate and figure out the extent of the damage. What have they been doing on Twitter for the last 10 years? What are these algorithms? What is their code? How does it work? All of that stuff. And people really do think, I mean, it looks like that they are freaking out behind the scenes and trying to, do the whole Enron thing, or I don't know. There's plenty of famous movies where there's a scene of corporations where they're shredding documents and files and stuff, from the 90s and 2000s. Devil's Advocate, there was a scene like that where they're shredding files. Um, yeah, they're basically people are alluding to that, and the algorithm is mysteriously changing, and all of a sudden, all the leftists are being their follower counts are being cut by dramatic, 25-30%, but then right wing accounts are boosted by 20-30%. It's bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre. But the next part here, let's share that. This is the part where people start yelling at me because people don't like my take on Ukraine. Several people who watch this channel are very upset with me on this, but we're not going to agree on everything. I think that's important to understand. You're not going to agree 100% with anybody. Some things you're going to know more about than someone else. Like if you're an expert on that or whatever, intermediate, or you're directly working in a thing that I'm talking about that I clearly only know a peripheral thing, you're going to get upset. You're like, oh, he's a stupid idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. For me, this is a ethics, morals, and a basic fundamental value type of thing. Biden to ask Congress for $33 billion to support Ukraine through September. This is problematic for me. This is problematic for me because Americans are already struggling here at home. There are so many different things happening. Sorry, phone notifications, my apologies. This is problematic to me because, like I said, Americans are already struggling and suffering economically because of all of the problems that primarily Democrats caused during the pandemic. And we're just throwing away billions and billions of dollars. This is like the third aid package that he's doing for Ukraine. Billions and billions of dollars, just throwing it to Ukraine, which I say, oh God, this connection's cutting out. It seems to be doing okay. We're just going to keep going. I think Ukraine is a shithole country. That's my opinion. A lot of people disagree. People get like butthurt when I say stuff like that. Compared to America, I have no interest in ever going to Ukraine. I have no interest in roughly anything remotely about Ukraine, other than they exist. They have a right to exist. Like I get that. Like everybody has a right to exist. Like as a person, as a human being, you have a right to exist. You do not have a right to my money, my wealth, my tax dollars. And this exposes a serious problem in America right now that we, for too long, have just kind of accepted that, oh, we just elect somebody into office and they could do whatever they want. Well, you don't like what they're doing, so you just vote for somebody the next time. But then the same thing keeps happening over and over and over again. It does not end. Every single person I talk to, short of maybe, I want to say there's one or two people out of a decade of having this political view I'm about to talk about, have all said they agree with me. It's I can't even think of how many people. 95% of people I've talked to say they agree that we should not be giving money to any country. The idea of foreign aid is stupid. We are not giving our money away to anybody. We don't care. And let's be very clear about that. It's not a greed thing. It's not that we're evil, that we're hateful, that we don't care about people around the world. It's that we can't even agree on basic crap here in America. We have tons of problems here in America, and you are literally exporting the wealth of this country halfway around the world, if not the other ends of the earth, while we're struggling here at home. while we're having problems here at home, that money could be spent here at home. The leftists say Elon Musk spent $44 billion to buy Twitter. He could have used that to solve world hunger. Well, we're sending $33 billion to Ukraine. We could have solved a lot of things here, right? Let's use that logic too. I'm sick of it. And most of the people I talk to are sick of it too. This makes no sense. It makes no sense. $33 billion for Ukraine. For what? To help a country that does not share our values. Well, Russia's our adversary, and, we're basically, it's a proxy war, like the few people who will admit that. I don't give a goddamn about Russia either. I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know not one Russian. Well, that's not really true. I worked with a couple Russians back in my, when I was 20. For a summer at this restaurant. They had some thing where they have a Russian exchange program, or they have an exchange program where they change a different country each year. It's totally irrelevant. I know a couple of Russians, but I just worked with them. We weren't friends or anything really. Point is, I don't care about Russia. I don't know anybody in Russia. I don't know anybody in Ukraine. I don't care about Ukraine. They're a world away from me. What I care about is here at home in America. We should be focusing here at home on America as much as possible. I talk about these other issues overseas because they have an impact globally. I think that's important. Ukraine and Russia border each other. America is nowhere in that picture. We should not be involved at all. And I'm getting tired too of this idea of like, oh, but allies, there are allies, and same with Taiwan. I don't care. Not my problem. I never voted on that. I never agreed on that. It's not my problem. Now, you can have that bigger tactical or strategic conversation of, well, if you allow China to take Taiwan, if you allow Russia to take Ukraine, and are they going to spread? Is this going to be another World War II situation where you have Germany and Japan, spreading empires and stuff? Okay, I get it. I'll get to the comments in a second. I get it. I understand that there are bigger implications long term, but right here, right now, America is exporting billions and billions of dollars, hundreds of billions, to foreign countries that do not share our values. Ukraine is not anything like America. And all these people, forgive me, again, forgive me for being rude, but on their knees, filleting Ukraine, do not understand who the Ukrainian people are. They do not believe in what you believe. And it's primarily the leftists. We got to support Ukraine. We got to go fuck up the Russians. Okay, Ukraine does not support gay rights. They don't support gay marriage. They are Orthodox Christians. They are hyper conservative. They are equally as conservative as Muslim countries, as Arab Muslim countries. It is not comparable at all. No, it's starting to glitch out. Come on, connection. A little bit. I apologize for the connection. I know it's choppy. Stand by. And I'll get to the chat in a second too. Come on, stabilize. I think it is stable again. Let's try this. There are very few topics that really get me upset, that really get my blood boiling, and this is one of them. This is like a basic logic thing, right? You help yourself before you help others. I believe it's even in the Bible. If you are a Christian or a religious person, I believe it's even in the Bible where it says that You basically have to help yourself before you help others. Correct me if I'm wrong. America is arguably the richest country in the world. Our standard of living is arguably the best in the world. Yet there's so many problems happening right now. You can go to rural parts of America. You can go to inner city neighborhoods. You can go to Native American reservations, and they are living in third world status. I'm not making that up. And this it infuriates me because people do not understand or know this. There are places in America where they do not have running water. They do not have plumbing. They do not have electricity. They do not have internet. They don't even have a proper house. Here in America, people taking pieces of sheet metal and wood and fastening it together to make a shack. And that is how they're living here in America in 2022. Yet we're giving $33 fucking billion to a country that does not care about us, that does not share our values. We are fucked in the head. This is insanity. And for some reason, we keep allowing this nonsense to happen. I guarantee you right now, if you said, you know what, I agree with you, Andrew, I do not believe that we should be giving our tax dollars to Ukraine, and I am not going to pay my taxes, you will go to federal prison for not paying your taxes. So please spare me this idea and this rhetoric and this, oh, just vote them out of office. It doesn't matter. You do not have a voice in this, short of a 1776 option. And I apologize for bringing it up like that, because people keep saying, there's another way, there's another way, there's another way. It's been 20 years since I started looking at the politics of these things. It's been 20 years. It's been roughly 15 years since I got on social media. And then it's been a decade, a little bit over a decade, when I started producing content like this. And I have changed dramatically over the years. But the more I learn, the angrier I get. The more black-pilled I get. And I'm trying to tell people, I try to give them options, but my voice is limited, right? I can only save it so much. So hold on, let me catch up on the chat, and then we can go from here. Lance Corporal Veteran says, foreign aid has never been proven to have long-term benefits. It upsets local economies. It reduces people's self-incentive to produce, and eventually creates a national welfare class. Absolutely. There is this story that, I don't know, may be apocryphal. It may not be. It may be true. But there was a story that I've heard people tell me. This keeps moving. There we go. That there was some town or village in Africa, and these white liberal Christian types. Well, I don't even know if they were liberal, but let's just say they were white Christian people, and they went into Africa. And they're trying to help the Africans, and they're trying to do good, right? Coming from a good place. And they noticed a lot of people weren't wearing shoes. A lot of kids didn't have shoes, so that was their mission. We're going to get these kids shoes. So they did. They got like second-hand, hand-me-down shoes, people to donate their old shoes, and they sent, I don't know, a couple dozen, 20, 30 pairs of shoes to this village in Africa. Well, it upset the economy because there was a guy who made shoes and sold shoes. He was out of work now because there was just an overabundance of shoes. Everyone had shoes, and he now doesn't have a job. And you can look at this example all over the world. Like, you can't just give people everything and they'll just be okay. And I always do these thought experiments, right? What if I had like godlike powers or something? What would I do first? And I go through this. It's so fun. It's so fun. And I use like cause and effect logic and all that stuff, and I break it down to my head. Well, food, water, clothing, shelter, medical. So five major things. And I started thinking about it. Well, if you give everyone water, it's like, okay, that'll disrupt the economy a little bit because now the industry that produces clean water would be out of effect. Well, if you give everyone food, that's a huge percentage of the economy where now people who produce food and process it are not going to have jobs. It's like, oh, this is going to be weird. Shelter, same thing. Clothing, same thing. And healthcare, same thing. What are you going to do for work? Okay, well, then people are just not going to work because they no longer need to. Then what do you do? And you start going through these processes, and, what are you going to do with roughly 5 billion people, maybe 4 billion people on the planet who don't need to work because everything else is provided for them? And the few people who do have to work are going to be jealous because everyone else isn't working. It causes a huge problem. So I 100% agree. Like, you got to be very careful in where you send your money and spend your money. That's a big part of why I'm not a big fan of charities. In general, it's a similar thought pattern for me. Foreign aid or welfare. This is national level welfare. We're giving welfare to these other countries. And that's a beautiful statement, national welfare. You got to be careful about that. All right. Little Bud, US Yacht 27. You do a great job. You cover great topics and have a great perspective. Hope to see you gain more subs soon. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've had this channel for over 10 years now, and I have stagnated at about 1,950 subs for like 4 years now, 3 or 4 years. There was this. If I look at my analytics, I was just steadily going up in views and subscribers, and then all of a sudden during the adpocalypse, I think it was the second wave, 2.0, all of a sudden it just stopped. It just stagnated. I'll see like 2 people unsubscribed this month, and three joined, and the next month 3 left and 2 joined. It's the algorithms. It wasn't like this before. And yeah, my views are nothing what they used to be. I probably get 2% of the views I used to get. And you can argue that the quality of content went down. I mean, maybe I just suck. I don't know. But then when I talk to people or I share a video, they just like, wow, that looks like the way you're talking. You talk like somebody on the news, or this other person, this big podcaster. And I'm like, this is the way it is. It's like, if you don't have connections, you're not going anywhere. And if they suppress the algorithm on you, this is what you have. But I'm happy where I am. I'm okay with that. If it ever blows up and I get tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, I will never forget the years of grinding, and I stay truthful to myself. I'll say that. I'm not going to change myself just to chase algorithms to be successful. I'm just not going to do it. So we shall see. Hopefully somebody buys YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and all the other different social medias, and we have like an Elon Musk situation to where we can get our free speech back and they free the code and all that. Anyway, next one. Lance Global Veteran says, eventually foreign aid becomes a bribe for most dictators and corrupt governments to keep them on our side with little to no benefit for our people, or for their people. I agree. We've seen that happen so many times. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that we have to deal with this. Brandon Hoskins says, has the U.S. supported a country at war like Ukraine before? If not, what's so special about Ukraine? Do they have something on Biden? Yes, we do it all the time. Trying to give what would be an example of what America is doing in Ukraine right now. Because we do it all the time, proxy war stuff. If we don't directly send in troops to other countries. We're giving them money. I guess Israel, kind of. Like, we fund Israel. Actually, yeah, that's a great one. Israel. America funds Israel's military, like, almost entirely. All of the missiles and aircraft and stuff, we pretty much are funding all of that. Billions. We give most of our foreign aid, our, what did Lance Corporal Veteran say, national welfare to Israel. I think Israel takes half of our foreign aid. Billions to Israel. But to fully answer the question, I absolutely, like, what makes it special about Ukraine? Because America, the what's it called? The foreign policy, the unelected bureaucrats, the American foreign policy of the bureaucrat class is to hate Russia, and they are leaning very heavily to Democrat side. But these people understand that the title of their political party is kind of irrelevant. They just happen to be mostly Democrats, but the establishment Republicans are the same. They're the same coin, different sides of the same coin. They're the Lindsey Grahams, they're the Chuck Schumers, they're the Nancy Pelosi's, Nick Grassley's, the Mitch McConnell's. They're all basically doing the same thing, just pretending to be on different sides. But yeah, do they have something on Biden? I don't know. All I could really say on that is, do they need to have dirt on Biden when you could just look at him anytime he has a public appearance and just observe him and be like, this is the president of the United States. Some people are like, he's not the president, Let's be very technical about that. He was confirmed by Congress to be president. He was sworn in by the Supreme Court Chief Justice. He is the president. Now, was he the duly elected president? Well, some people disagree with that. So, let's see. So yeah, I mean, this is one of those topics that really upsets me. It's just, so much is going on. It's so obvious the nefarious intentions and acts. And there's just so many people who don't understand that they don't understand what they're advocating for. Because we are literally this close. Well, maybe not literally, figuratively this close to World War III. People keep saying that, oh, China and Russia are natural adversaries. It's like, you're not really paying attention to what's been happening. China has been bailing out Russia during this war with Ukraine. They've been helping them. And they are natural allies. What better allies to have other than China and Russia? They border each other. Mongolia is up there too, but I think Russia and China connect borders on both ends, while Mongolia has a little spot in the middle. But what better natural allies? They have very different cultures, but they're both authoritarian governments. They're both adversarial to Europe and the West. They both have their own goals. Why wouldn't they team up? It would be next to impossible to defeat China and Russia combined forces in a World War III. It'd be very hard, is what I'm saying. You have a fractured Europe, right? I say fractured, but there's dozens of countries in Europe. Yeah, I guess dozens of countries in Europe. Versus two mega countries. It's like, well, yeah, America has fantastic military and a superior force. If we only fought Russia, if we only fought China, but combined we would be outgunned. There's no mistaking that. So we got to be very careful with our rhetoric and be like, yeah, we should just go out and fight Russia and just go send troops into Ukraine. People are advocating for that. I guess the first thing I would say to that is, volunteer yourself. First, you can go. If you think we should be doing that, go sign up for the Foreign Legion in Ukraine. You have that right and ability. If you are actively in government or the military or something, that's not an option. Obviously, you can't serve two masters. You're allowed to advocate for that, but I ask people to take a step back, remove the emotion a little bit, and think about the consequences of that. Because a lot of people don't seem to understand what a full-fledged war is, what total war is. Iraq and Afghanistan were not total war. Okay? Yes, thousands of American troops died in those conflicts, in those campaigns. That is 100% true. But we have not faced an enemy that can actively, that could fuck us up equally on an equal playing field since what, Korea? Vietnam was a proxy war for China, but face to face, head to head, I would say, Korea was too. Chinese went down through Korea. So, and we're fighting North Koreans and Chinese. But I would say the last time America went head to head with another nation was World War II. Like fully head on, like full-fledged war, total war. All hands on deck. The only people that are alive for that are our grandparents of my generation and great-grandparents of Gen Zers. And they're quickly fading away. They're in their late 70s, early 80s. And actually, most of them they were born in the 40s, so they were small children. The people who are surviving that now are in their 90s and 100s. There's not very many left. So our generation, we don't understand what a world war is. We don't understand what a total war is, for that matter. We see on the internet, we see on TV, we see the images of war. We see before and afters. Oh, this was a lovely city, and then like Aleppo, it's completely ash and rubble and sand and dust. Visually, we could understand the concept. Bad things happen. War happened here. But you're not physically there. You can't feel it. You can't smell it. You can't taste it. And specifically Americans, we have this mentality like it can never happen here. And I try to tell people this. Oh, that's a lovely, a lovely face as it freezes, with my eyes rolled up in the back of my head. Thank you, internet connection. Let's see. Let's let this balance out for a second. I apologize for the connection issues. Come on. I don't think this is stabilizing. That's not good. Let me close that out. All right, I think it's back again. So yeah, listen, a lot of people misinterpret things that I say because they're only hearing part of the explanation. I'm very long-winded, obviously. But when I say a thing, you need to listen to the whole statement because, there's always a nuance to it. There's always something more that I'm trying to say. And you need to be careful what you wish for. You have to be careful what you wish for. You absolutely have the right to say, I believe in this cause and I'm going to give my life. I'm going to put my life on the line to uphold that ideal. You absolutely have that right to go overseas and go into Ukraine and say, I'm going to go fight the Russians because I believe in the right thing, that these civilians are being abused, and this is wrong. Okay, I have no problem with you believing that. I even respect you for taking that action. But I caution people to think this through. The first few waves of the Foreign Legion, we had people abandoning, going AWOL, and then reporting back after they escaped, saying, we don't even have guns and ammo. We don't have equipment. Because why would Ukrainians give, the foreign help their guns, their ammo? You get the hand-me-downs. I mean, I don't even know if they allow you to bring your own stuff. Like, if you're an American, can you bring your own weapons and ammo? I don't know, maybe. I don't see why. I mean, going across the border with weapons and traveling across, through Europe with banned assault rifles, semi-automatic weapons. I don't know. Good luck. Good luck on that. Hold on. We got some more comments coming in. Let's see. Infuse Decipher. So, as much as I like you, I'm lost in this. Is a good moment to celebrate. I do have some concerns about him for the future because he is a transhumanist. Wants to upload our thoughts to the internet. Oh, you're talking about Elon Musk on that one. It is a moment to celebrate. As far as the whole Elon Musk Twitter thing, it is. But we have a problem with hero worship. And I've been trying to explain this to people for a very long time. Like, I never understood celebrity worship and hero worship. And, oh, this person in history was so great. And, you got pictures of them in your house or whatever. It's weird. It's always been weird to me. And I keep trying to... I did a big, long video, if not a stream on this, where I think that people... humans crave authoritarianism. They crave monarchy. I don't agree with it. I think it's terrible. I think it's stupid. It's lazy. But Americans... we don't have a monarchy. We don't have that kind of culture to say, like, that we have a dynasty in charge. It's like something above us, where the crown is connected to God, essentially. That's, especially like in Europe, that was a huge component. Ancient Egypt and stuff. The person who was the monarch was an avatar for divinity, for a deity. And we don't have that anymore here in America, so we created our own. The false deities or idols, essentially. Our presidents are a huge component now. Now we pseudo worship them. Our celebrities, our actresses, our musicians, our actors and musicians, we worship them. Anyone who is famous, you are a famous scientist, Bill Nye, Neil deGrasse Tyson. We worship them. People worship them. They put icons and idols of them in their homes. I'm not joking. People have, like in Orthodox, Christians and stuff in Eastern Europe and Greece and stuff. They'll have icons of saints, in their wall, and Jesus, and it's like the gold foil and all this stuff. People do that with like Obama and Trump and all these. It's weird. It's weird to me. We deify people to sainthood, if not above sainthood. Fauci. People are worshiping Fauci. And I think there's something ingrained in us as humans to do that. And it's easy for me to call that kind of behavior out because I've noticed it since I was a child. I guess my dad was very much into questioning things, and it was huge, big shout out to my dad for my upbringing. As hard as it was, he definitely left me better prepared than not. I definitely appreciate it. But basically, to wrap up that one thought, this thought is, for tens of thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years, humans have had some kind of a leader that is basically born into it. Tribally, the alpha, whoever's the strongest leads us, right? But as we started scaling up, it became, you're born into this. You are the monarch. And I think people, tens of thousands of years of having that, people are interested in that, and it's hard to break that. You have to evolve out of it. As far as Elon Musk being transhumanist, yeah, I mean, it's problematic. It's scary to me. Transhumanism is not something I'm interested in. I think we can evolve humanity in ways by mixing technology, like computer technology and physics and stuff like that, with biological changes to a degree. Okay, but when you start talking about uploading human consciousness into a computer, or in some kind of a database or whatever, it's that's not a human anymore. That's something different. That's something new, and I think we should be very cautious of that. All right, where am I at? We got a lot of comments coming in. Okay, here we go. I'll try to be a little quicker too. Infuse the cipher again. What is going to happen if his Neuralink program succeeds after all he tested them on monkeys, which was terribly unethical, of course. I agree with that. And some of those freaking lab monkeys died. Of course they died. If it succeeds, then we have another layer of control. And Elon Musk may be neutral or benevolent, like he actually wants to help us and do good. All you need to do is look at a Black Mirror episode. They have like 3 or 4 of them where it's basically they're not episodic, or they are episodic, but the universes, some of them are interacting. Different episodes are the same universe, not necessarily the whole series. And they have these little things that look like little circle batteries or something, but they're little neural transmitters, and you stick them on your head, and you can go into it like a virtual fantasy world, except it's not virtual to you because it's beaming the information straight into your head, so you perceive it as reality. You see, you feel, you touch, you hear, you taste. Everything feels real and then it's Black Mirror, so there's a dark twist to it, and people are exploiting the technology in one way or another. It's very terrifying to me. I think the worst episode in Black Mirror was related to that. There's 2 of them actually, where basically they use this technology to scan your mind, your entire consciousness, memory and all, and then they upload that consciousness into a hard drive, and then they just take a dial and just slow time down from the entity's perspective, the clone of you. So that clone, that neural clone of you, is experiencing thousands of years, tens of thousands of years. I think one of them was for the desired outcome, the goal. By yourself in a sanitized gray or white room or whatever, you're just sitting there all by yourself, only having your thoughts for 10,000 years. That's hell. That's the most. That's evil. That's beyond evil to me, and it's terrifying. It's terrifying. And what's worse is you could, instead of just taking that clone, you can give that person who's in it the perspective that time is going that slow. Outside world, it's just normal time. That's terrifying. It's terrifying. Hold on 1 second. I think this one will be All right, sorry about that. Owner came back from lunch. All right. Like basically think of the Chinese social credit system. I hope Elon or Musk doesn't try that crap again. That is Black Mirror. In Black Mirror, they predicted a lot of this crap, and it's terrifying. I highly recommend you watch Black Mirror. Infused Decisive also says, and yeah, it's time to go fight for Ukraine as an American veteran, because that's not our country, and that's provoking Russia to come after us even more. And that's my concern, is people don't understand this. I mean, as a human being, you have the right to freely travel and freedom to associate and all that stuff. I'm okay with that. But as I try to explain this to people, because there's like this block in their head, they just can't. They're not understanding what I'm saying. Okay. So I'm going to break this down again. From Russia's perspective, from Putin's perspective, what do you call it when thousands, if not tens of thousands of foreigners, military trained foreigners, 95, 99% are males, military trained, are coming over to the active battleground to fight and kill your troops? What do you call that? These other nations are sending billions of dollars of money to help your enemy. What do you call that? These dozens or so countries are sending billions of dollars worth of military equipment, guns, ammo, artillery, mortars, tanks from Poland now. I believe there's even talk of military jet craft, missiles, bombs. What do you call that? Oh, but we're not involved, or we're not getting involved in that. Listen, if Russia, if Putin doesn't croak because he may be sick or something, I don't know, maybe a permanent sickness. He is old, not as old as Biden. I think Putin is what, 69, 70, something like that. If the bad scenario happens and Putin is just like, it's just snowballed, and it's an existential crisis for Russia, that our entire country is at risk here. The well-being of our people is at risk. The 150 million people in Russia. He can just say fuck it and just, I have to do something, and he starts attacking these other countries that are funding the Ukrainians. He's probably not going to hit America first. He would probably hit the European countries. They're closer. Logistically speaking, it would make the most sense. And again, keep it in the back of your ear or whatever, in your back pocket. Don't forget China. China is working closely with them. The main, Infused Decipher, the main issue I have is if you fully support Ukraine, you support neo-Nazis, but if you support Russia, you support Soviet Union Empire resurrection. Neither of them are really good guys. I agree 90% of the way. Like, I definitely agree that if you fully support Ukraine, then you are supporting the neo-Nazi factions that are in Ukraine, including the Azov Battalion, that is not just some fringe small group of military specialists. They are a major component, if not the major fighting force in Ukraine. We're being lied to about a lot of this stuff. I'm just watching like mainstream media a couple either last week or the week before. And there was separate news stories. I didn't even search Azov, but there was like, oh, Azov is in this city. Azov is in this area. In this area. Like, they're in like 5 different regions. Like, Azov is a major thing. It's not it's only 2,000 Azov. Fuck off, dude. Like, they're just lying to us. Now, what is Russia's intentions? Are they trying to resurrect the Soviet Union, like, create a new empire? Maybe. I honestly couldn't tell you. I'm not really. I haven't really heard much on that. He also says, obviously, our government is taking the neo-Nazi side, and the leftists that support it basically ignore that faction of Ukraine and accuse Russia of being Nazi. Of course, it's always whataboutism, and it's always projection. It's always projection. Never mind the Nazis on our side over here. Let's everyone focus on you. You're the Nazis. It's like, okay. And I had a close friend of mine from the UK who's strongly on the Ukrainian support side. He was like, well, there's this, I can't even think of the guy's name, but it's like one guy who is in a Russian mercenary group who has like swastikas and stuff. He's like a neo-Nazi. I'm like, okay. Like, first of all, the first I ever heard it, I didn't believe him, but I looked it up and was like, okay. So there's a faction working on the Russian side that has neo-Nazis. Okay, great. Versus thousands and thousands of Azov on the Ukraine side. I'm like, you're comparing a grain of sand to like an entire orchard. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, come on, we could do better than this. Let's just be truthful as much as possible. Infuse decipher, but it goes deep down the rabbit hole, and you look at General Patton and Operation Paperclip. Clearly, we see that the Nazis were the lesser of the two evils, but does that make supporting them right now in the current day and age the right answer? And basically, are both sides being used to kill each other off so the Chinese can take over the world after Russia and NATO nuke each other? Very interesting thought. I would say yes. That is a likely scenario too. I mean, I understand Operation Paperclip. Just a quick aside. Like, I understand that, like, you don't want to just waste knowledge and people who have specialty and are good at a thing. But the optics are bad. Like, we're using Nazi scientists to further our stuff. It's like, I think we could do better. As far as China going to be there after the dust settles between Russia and NATO, yeah, it'd be a perfect scenario for them. And another component too is, like, there's a couple things that could happen out of this. Like, China and Russia could unite, like, and make like 1,000-year bond. It's very possible. Or China and Russia could unite, and then when Russia really needs China, like, they need them to survive and win the war, the greater war, and China just doesn't show up and be like, oh, sorry, we're dealing with something else, and betray Russia. And then Russia falls, and NATO and Russia destroy each other, and be like, yeah, exactly like you said. And then China comes in to clean up the mess. That is very possible too. Lance Corporal Veteran, never think because far left loonies scream over made up moral issues that they have any standards to measure them. Goes the joke. They only stand for the current thing. Yes, absolutely. Bakari Akil Bay says Android. Okay. And Lance Corporal Veteran says people need to stop conflating their likes with their conclusions of what they want, like Musk buying Twitter. That means free speech. Those are two things being concluded together. Correct. And as I was saying earlier about the hero worship thing, like, I honestly think we're all guilty of it to a degree. It's hard for us to shake. There's like a genetic imprinting in us that is just, we're just programmed to to kind of deify things higher than us. Now, he's not higher than us in any real sense, other than he's the richest man in the world, even though like 90% of his wealth is made up. Like, oh, the value of his company is, we're just gonna mysteriously say it's worth this much, but he doesn't have $200 billion. It doesn't exist. Like, if he wanted to go to his bank account and say, I want to take out the $200 billion, it just doesn't exist, because it's all tied up in stocks and assets. It's theoretical. But Elon Musk himself was even, he says he's a free speech absolutist, but I disagree. I don't think very few people are actually free speech absolutists, because the things that are considered free speech would shock you, like some of these other things. Some people get in debates like extreme content is free speech, up to and including illegal content like child exploitation videos and stuff. It's interesting. It's interesting, to say the least. You're good. That's kind of the point of the lives anyway, is to have, the viewers can comment, and we talk about it, because I can always just stare at a camera and talk shit for hours. As you can see, I have like 1,000 videos at this point on this channel. Well, most of them are hidden for YouTube purposes. They kept retroactively going back and flagging my stuff, and it was causing problems for me. Basically, they're going back to try to delete my channel because content that was said 5 years ago is no longer okay, and they're just one by one going through. Anyway, yeah, it's okay. Let's see. Lance Corporal Veteran says, Black Mirror sounds like a very strong version of my flashbacks from Iraq, when I used to have physical experiences of it as if I was still in Iraq, with all the same touch, feel, smell, and temperature. That's scary, and yeah, there are psychological things like that. It is very possible you could have like hyper-realistic flashbacks, and I'm sorry that stuff was happening, and I hope that it's better now. And I would also like to use that opportunity to highlight that people don't seem to respect what war is, even if you're on the winning side. Like, you're overwhelmingly, like, you're gonna win the war, right? The first time we went in Iraq, the second time we went in Iraq, Afghanistan, the risk of you dying is still high. But your side is going to win. Like, there's no question. But the things you're seeing is horrific. It's horrific, and people need to respect that. And we have this whole generation that doesn't understand it, because they, Gen Z, they grew up during, Iraq and Afghanistan. That's all they know is, like, we've been in perpetual war, but most of them have never experienced it or even seen it, really. They might see a couple shock videos here and there on the internet, but... And myself, I'm very honest and clear about this. I have never experienced war. I didn't serve in the military. There was a time when I was talking to recruiters of the Army, Marines, and Navy, and Air Force, actually. And at the time, they said all of them said I was fat. This was 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And they had just changed their policy. They said I needed to lose 50 pounds. At the time, I was 230 pounds. I was 230 pounds. They wanted me to get down to 180. And I was just like, this is probably the skinniest I've been in my adult life. Like, if I lose 50 pounds, like, it's not going to happen. But I say this because even I understand. My respect of it is I try to expose myself to horror sometimes so I can understand. And me watching a horror, like a real life shock horror video, is traumatic enough. I cannot. It's only a fraction. Is if you're actually there experiencing it. So I want people to like give respect to what this means, and stop advocating for war. Like, oh, let's just go in Ukraine and like, no, please no, and you're contributing to the possibility that Putin snaps, that Russia snaps, because Putin is not going to live forever. Who's going to replace him? Is it going to somebody be docile, or is it going to be somebody who's younger and more of a Russian bear who will invade Europe because of the things that NATO has been doing? And then we have World War III, and instead of having to deal with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands dying in Ukraine, then we get to deal with millions of people spread on multiple continents dying in horrific war and destruction. So let's be very careful about that. Infused to decipher, yeah, the Black Mirror stuff is mental trauma and PTSD personified, absolutely. Like, that's a show that show will give you nightmares, because it's like you're having existential crises thinking about stuff, and I've brought myself to that point before just by thinking of a thing that's like well above me, and you're basically expanding your perception. It's so fun and scary, pushing the bounds of your mind. You know, one day I'm going to die. I'm just not going to exist anymore. And really think about what that means. That one day you're going to die. And you don't know. Are you going to go somewhere else, or do you just go into oblivion? Which one's worse? Not knowing where you're going, or being nothing. It's scary. It's scary. But yeah, Black Mirror, amazing, amazing, amazing. Infused Decipher says, I will admit I'm more sympathetic to Ukraine in this. However, I do have some sympathies for what Putin is dealing with, as there's some stuff on both sides I kind of admire as well. Stuff I dislike. Of course. Like, I get you. I totally get it. Like, I don't think that Russia should have invaded Ukraine. I feel like there could have been more to do to stop this nonsense. Absolutely. Yeah, I've done several videos on this. It's like they're 100% acts of war, and pretend like they're not it's not being honest. And the problem with the propaganda war right now is the fifth generational warfare with the U.S. involvement directly from the White House, and then you have military intelligence, you have the CIA, you have the NSA, probably even the FBI to some degree. Like, you have all these different agencies, police agencies, intelligence agencies, pushing narratives stronger than ever before. Like, they don't want us to hear anything that Putin's saying. And I was watching the Timcast IRL show earlier this morning, and they had Jack Posobiec on, and I have completely a side note here. I feel like Jack Posobiec is highly sus. It's very suspect. I understand he was former military intelligence. It's just like something about his energy gives off like, I'm not out. Like, I'm still doing it now. I'm still doing like mind game stuff. But I mean, if you know Jack Posobiec and follow his like Twitter and his stuff that he puts out, like, it's not bad. It's just he's clearly playing mind games with people, and he's like really working the psychology here. Like, he's doing his own psyops. But yeah, I was watching the show, and they were basically bringing it up, talking about all these different things that were happening. It's so good. It's so fascinating. Honestly, surprised that Russia has not nuked us into oblivion. Yeah, I mean, clearly we are helping the Ukrainians, so Russia should go to war with us. I mean, I don't know that they should, but I've basically talked about this too a couple of days ago. It's like, well, what happens when you have a friend? Or, I'm sorry, you're in I guess an apartment complex was my analogy. You're in an apartment complex, and let's say it's a U shape or something, right? And you're on one side of the apartment complex, and on the opposite side, they're your neighbors, right? Technically, you're sharing the same apartment complex, just like we're sharing the same world. And all of a sudden, one of them starts getting really belligerent, and they're talking crap to you, and they're doing all this weird stuff, and you're just kind of like, whatever, man, I'm just minding my own business. And then you notice they're like sitting on their balcony, and they have like a shotgun or a rifle or something, and you're like, okay, this is getting weird. But you're a Second Amendment person, so you're like, all right, well, it's his property over there, it's fine, just don't get weird about it. And then you notice a couple other apartments where people start getting weird, and they also have guns now. And eventually they start pointing it kind of in your direction. They may not be completely trained on you, but some of them are. And you're like, okay, this is not okay. And it's a problem. And the biggest purveyor of this, right? Let's say the first guy. You notice he has all these weapons on his balcony, and he's pointing it at you, and you're like, all right, I have to do something about this. This is ridiculous. So you fuck him up. You go over there and you start fucking him up. And then you start noticing that other neighbors, a neighbor across the street, starts sending over packages to this guy. He starts sending over packages. Well, what are in the packages? It's guns and ammunition and explosives and stuff he didn't even have before. They're sending him, like armor pieces. Again, we're scaling this down, right? So it's only people. Armor, pieces of body armor, and like a 50 BMG, and maybe even machine guns and stuff that they didn't even have before. And you're like, wait. So when we scale this up, we are being told that the other person that is sending the guns and ammo and bombs and tanks and all this other shit is not involved. You're giving them better shit than they had before. It's like, of course that's an act of war. It's not even a question that that's an act of war. If you scale it down to the person, I'm going, after I fuck this guy up, I'm coming to go fuck you up because you made my life harder. You're both threatening my existence. Now, obviously the situation's more complicated than that, and Russia has done bad things too. Let's just be honest about it. But if you simplify it like that, like you could tell, it's like, yeah, there's problems here. We should just keep our we have nothing to do with this. But then you have this weird Zelensky guy that I want to keep, I keep to like really bring up. Like something is weird about him. He's sus. And not just sus because, obviously he's doing weird, there's videos of him doing like a comedy skit or something where he's in gay leather and halter tops and he's doing gay dances and whatever. That's irrelevant. What I'm talking about is, besides that, his energy just gives off something is weird and off about him. Something is weird going on here. And he refuses to surrender. He refuses to make peace. When Russia's main issues that they would sign a peace treaty with were, you can't join NATO, you can't join the European Union, and you're going to stop putting weapons and troops and troops and weapons and missile platforms at our border. That was it. That was the three main things. And Zelensky said no. So, again, if you have somebody like right next door to you or across the way or something, and they have these weapons and guns, and they're trying to team up with like the neighborhood gang and stuff, it's like, yeah, they're a threat to Russia. Yeah, obviously there's more. It's more complicated. Russia is also being aggressive in other parts, and have been kind of fucking around with Crimea and other regions trying to get access to the Black Sea and Aegean Sea and stuff like that. It's like, okay, I get it. But when you look at the big picture, it's kind of like, yeah, NATO has been doing more against Russia than Russia has been doing against them. I think it's significant. Who's to the primarily who to blame here? Let's see. Oh, we're getting weird with this one. All right, here we go. Infused Decipher says, although I personally think the moment a nuke is fired is when the aliens will disable them in the sky, and we will not be able to nuke each other because they will take over the nukes. I can't really speak to that other than that would be fantastic. I hope that's true. I don't think it will happen. I think that if aliens were here, they would have done something about this situation a long time ago. Maybe not. It could be like, hey, they didn't. We contacted you 80 years ago, and your leaders said, we're to keep this quiet and hush hush. Maybe they just said okay because they didn't want to disrupt our way of government, our culture. Maybe they do have a red line, like, well, if they destroy themselves, like, well, we don't want that to happen, so we'll intervene then. It's possible. Who knows? They could have something like a prime directive. Maybe they would let us destroy ourselves. Well, humans are dead, so I guess we'll just come in, and we have the technology. This connection is trash. Come on, connection. Is it back? Mostly back. Yeah, I mean, I think it would be. It's an interesting theory that maybe if aliens do exist, they've already been here, that they have a prime directive not to intervene. Who knows? I can't speak on that because I haven't met any aliens. I don't know that they exist here anyway. I would imagine they do exist elsewhere, of course. I think the connection is stabilizing. I doubt it. I don't know. But yeah, any final thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, any news items that you wanted to bring up real quick? Now would be the time because we're going to wrap up here. Yeah, good stream. Good stream. I would also suggest that if you are somehow new here, which I doubt, like, comment, and subscribe. Also, a huge component, probably the most important, would be to share this link out. If you got anything out of this, if you liked it, if you think others should hear it, please share this out on your social media. Text people, email people. It really does help. Not just to help me, but if you agree with most of what I'm saying, like the message here, the thought pattern, maybe we shouldn't be rushing into war. Share it. And I mean that. Share it. Share this out. That's the only way we can really start making a difference, is if people fully understand what's happening. They're better informed. CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post, all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, they have some value. I'm not going to say they don't, but if you wanted a different perspective too, to get a bigger picture, because they usually just give you a quick summary. If you wanted a deeper dive, share this out. Share this out. So again, one last time, if there's any final comments, questions, concerns, news stories, something like that, anything you wanted to say, now would be the time, because we are going to wrap this up. I will give you 1 more minute. But if not, also I just say like I do appreciate everyone as always. There are new people that are here who've only been watching me for a little bit, and then there's some people who've been watching me for stupid amounts of time. And I appreciate all of you, the old heads and the newcomers as always, because I guess the day I stop doing this is the day that I get 0 views. Like, nobody is watching. Even if I, get 5-10 views. All right, well, 5-10 people heard what I had to say. It's better than not saying it at all. But, yeah, I mean, people appreciate, I guess, something I'm saying, so they keep coming back. And hopefully one day it will get better than the current YouTube metrics. BitChute. Actually, let me bring up BitChute as a one last thing. My BitChute gets more views than YouTube. And I'm not even on there, really. It's like passively uploads to BitChute. Let's see. Let's just go through my last few videos. I just want to see briefly. And then compare YouTube to BitChute real quick. Briefly. Because this doesn't make any goddamn sense. Okay, my last video, why Twitter is the most important political battlefield, 6 views on YouTube. On BitChute, 22. NATO is in Ukraine, sparking World War III eventuality with Russia, 22 views on YouTube. 66 views on BitChute. I'm just scrolling down, and it's like all of them. BitChute is way more views. It's weird. It's weird. That's more organic, and I don't really interact much on BitChute. I only got 100 subscribers on BitChute. But I'm getting all these views. But over here, it claims that I almost have 2,000 subscribers, but I'm getting like next to no views. I do not get it. Clearly, algorithmically suppressed on YouTube. But we've known this for years. But anyway, that's it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And I hope to see you next time. I hope you have a great day. And let's see, today's Thursday. I don't know. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I might make another video. So I'll see you all next time.